Hey, what's up everybody? How to Tech here, and I got a brand new iPhone 6s Plus. We're going to go ahead and power this device off because we're going to go ahead and take the screen out of this and a charge port as well. So we're going to go ahead and use a few tools to do this. A small Phillips screwdriver, either double O or triple O, a pentalobe screwdriver to take up the bottom two screws, and then a couple of pry tools. This nylon spudger will help us out. And these tweezers will help us pry up some adhesive, couple of guitar picks, and this suction cup to help us pull the screen up. We're going to go ahead and take our two bottom pentalobe screws out first. Now this phone's been changed up just a little bit. I thought it was going to be pretty similar to what you'd see for the 6S, but honestly, some of the internal stuff's pretty different, especially when we start talking about the charge port. So I'll put the screen replacement or the charge port replacement down in the description of this video as well. Got both of our pentalobe screws out. Be careful with them. One thing that you want to know about this phone also is that the screws are very different. So make sure you keep track of exactly where they came out from. So we're going to go ahead and take our suction cup here, put it on, and then start pulling it back. We're going to slide it just a little bit here, rotate it, help us get our nylon spudger in here. And I was actually trying to be very careful with this screen. I didn't want to damage it. These things are pretty freaking expensive at this point. So it takes me a little bit longer than it probably should have to get this screen off. But I would suggest if you're doing this as well, if your screen's not broken, you're doing charge port, then maybe you might just want to take your time as well. I understand there's probably going to be some haters down in the comments saying, "Took you 5 minutes to take that screen off." But hey, at least my screen still functions. So we're going to try to use a guitar pick in here as well. It's nice and thin. The screen itself is a little bit different from what you'd see on the 6S as well. The corners have some kind of like some struts in it that to help reinforce it and be sturdy. So just be aware of that when you're trying to take it off. You're going to hit bumps in the corner. It's going to be really hard to get your tool in and around. So that's one of the tricky things about disassembling this 6S Plus. I'm trying to wiggle this guitar pick back and forth a little bit to give me a little bit more room to go around the corner of the phone here. So we'll take our nylon spudger and run it up the side of the device. It's on there pretty good. I mean, the adhesive they're using on this particular device is pretty good. So just trying to be nice and gentle, making sure I only pry up on the frame of the phone and not on the actual glass. Seems like the bigger the phone, the easier it is to break the display. Just don't have the opening down the side yet here. It's being a little bit tricky on this. So don't try to loosen up a little bit further down here. See if we can't get this corner to pop out for us. There we go. It's a little bit better. Now you might hear a little bit of popping as you're doing this, and that's the adhesive letting go off of the screen. Just make sure you're not being too forceful. You don't want to make a crack sound instead of a popping sound. Alright, there we go. Work our way down the side of the phone here. And this side's just got some adhesive on it. Geez, this just doesn't want to open up for us. You could also use a little bit of heat. That'd probably make this a little bit easier. I did the 6S without heat, so I figured this one wouldn't be too difficult. But it's a little bit tougher than the regular 6S. We're making progress now. Still have some adhesive on this side. We'll try to push it down a little bit further here. There we go. So we can't start to pull it up a little bit here. So you can see right here on the side there's a little bit of a strut there. And there's still some adhesive that's just pulling up with the frame, so I'm just going to try to cut it out with this guitar pick here. As we go down the side of the phone. Here we go. Alright. We can pull back on it a little bit here. And open it up. Now you may have to wiggle it a little bit down here. The screen at the top is normally inserted first and then closed, so you may have to wiggle it out a little bit to get it to open fully for you. Alright, here we go. Alright, the next step is that we're going to go ahead and remove the screen. We're going to take out these 5 screws right here. Make sure you keep them in order in which they came out of this, because they are all completely different. There's one. There's our second. Third. 2 more to go. And then just a center screw needs to come out. Alright, there we go. Now we can go ahead and take our spudger and pull up the shielding here. Or you can use your hands as well. And then we need to pull up these 3 cables. There's 2 that are showing, and there's one that's underneath the longer cable here. So we'll put our spudger in and pop these up. Now, honestly, the connectors in these are a little bit different than I've seen before. This pop up just the same, but it seems like there's a little residual adhesive around them. They may have put those to help them keep them in place. So just be aware that as you're pulling them up, they don't come off really as easy as they used to. Alright, so all 3 connectors are popped out. We can go ahead and pull this away from the frame here. And there we have it. We have our screen separated from our phone. We can now go ahead and focus on the bottom portion of the assembly here. First thing we're going to go ahead and do is undo these 2 screws here, holding on the battery shielding. That'll give us access to the charge port ribbon cable, as well as the battery cable, and we'll also need to undo an antenna cable here as well. So this is where I ran into a lot more adhesive on a ribbon cable, was this bottom charge port. I'm not sure if it was on purpose, but man, there was a lot of adhesive holding this cable down to its plug-in port. So I had to actually use my spudger here to kind of cut it free. Something that's a little bit new. Now with that done, we can go ahead and pull the cable back off of the loudspeaker. And that will reveal a screw off to the right hand side as well. Let's go ahead and undo the antenna cable. This is just like a button, so we're just going to go ahead and pull this up. These can be a little bit tricky to do. You want to have something a little bit pointier to put up underneath the middle portion. There we go. It was easier than expected. So we're going to go ahead and undo the top 2 screws. Do this upper right hand side first. And the bottom left hand side, this actually holds on a bracket that's holding on 2 antenna cables. I can get this screw to come out for us. There we go. Alright, that leaves us looking at the additional screws here. What else would need to come out? Now, this is where it's much different than what you'd see on an iPhone 6s. So we have some screws down here. This one definitely goes into the loudspeaker, so we're going to go ahead and take this screw out. And it looks like... Let's check under this adhesive and see if there's anything under here real quick. On occasion there can be a hidden screw in here, so we're just going to see what's underneath it before we continue. We'll have to pull this up to remove the loudspeaker as well anyways. Let's look if there's anything underneath it. Let's see how removable this is at this point. It's still got some screws in there. We're going to have one down here at the right hand side we're going to go ahead and remove. It's right here. It's still in there pretty solid. So we may have to remove this piece here all the way across. So we're going to undo the two screws, the top two screws in the charge port assembly. Pull off this one to the right side of the charge port. There's one more screw in the upper right side hand side holding this bracket in its place. Let's go ahead and pull this up. We have a couple screws we're going to remove for this antenna bracket here as well. Let's see if we can pull this up. There we go. Looks a lot more free. Still doesn't want to come out. It looks like there's something down here. Oh, they've got some screws down here as well. Got a screw right here holding in the bottom portion of the loudspeaker. We'll go ahead and take this out. This reminds me of a iPhone 4 at this point. Some of those corner screws on the screen are a pain to get out. So let's hope this one isn't as hard to get back in. And it should come free for us now. I'm not sure if there's anything else holding it in here. We're just going to take out this wire connector to see if that might be holding us back. And it looks like it was. Oh, they've got them actually taped to the loudspeaker. So to replace the loudspeaker, we're going to have to take these wire antenna cables off. So we'll just gently pull them off of the adhesive here. Now, if you're replacing just the charge port cable itself, you wouldn't have to do this portion. If you're looking to replace the loudspeaker, then these would definitely have to be removed and then reassembled. A little silver bracket just fell off as well. We'll talk about that in the reassembly video of how to get that to go back on. So there's the loudspeaker. Alright, let's see what else we need to remove out of this phone to get the ribbon cable out here. Here's that bracket I was talking about. We'll talk about that in the reassembly. So we have a screw down here in the bottom right hand side that'll need to go ahead and pop out for us so we can remove the cable. And there's one underneath the corner of a piece of tape down here. I'll show you that in a few seconds. It takes me a second to find it. We're going to remove both screws to the left and right of the charge port as well. And then we'll move both off of the back of the 3.5mm headphone jack. Once we get those out, that'll give us access to the tactile box here. We can just go ahead and pull that out. It looks like it's just attached to the ribbon cable. Same little pop-up connector that we've been removing off of the phone so far. So we're just going to use our nylon spudger and go ahead and pop that right off. Perfect. Go ahead and set that aside. So now we can work on just pulling the cable up. And then, like I was saying, there's a missing screw down here at the bottom right-hand side underneath a piece of adhesive. There's also a screw that's flat into the bottom of the phone to the left of the charge port. So we'll go ahead and remove that screw as well. So let's go ahead and pull the cable back. You want to be careful to rip this cable. There's a lot of circuits inside, so if you rip it a little bit, it could do some serious damage to the cable itself. Now here's where it takes me a second to figure out what is going on. I thought that this microphone adhesive was holding the cable in. Once I pull that back, I can see that something else is still there. I'll show you where the screw's at here in just 2 seconds. So we're just going to use a sharp tool to go ahead and pull up the adhesive down here. You can use your nylon spudger or maybe a pair of tweezers to pull it back, and you can see there's a little screw here just on the side of the phone. Alright, go ahead and take our screwdriver and get this one pulled out. Alright, there we go. Now this cable should come out relatively easy for us. So I'm just going to wiggle it back and forth, just making sure we don't damage the cable at all. We don't want to damage the adhesive. There's 2 microphones on this, one to the left of the charge port, one to the right, these little gold boxes here. They are put on with a pretty decent amount of adhesive, so you may have to wiggle those free a little bit to get them out. Be careful with the thin part of the ribbon cable over here. You don't want to damage that as well. And to get the 3.5mm headphone jack out, you may have to kind of push up on the back of it with your spudger while you pull the cable out. Now once your cable's out, really that's it for the charge port disassembly. If you want to watch the reassembly video, I'm going to throw that down in the description. If you find the reviews or the disassemblies helpful, go ahead and subscribe to me. I'll do a couple a month. If you have any questions, throw them down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer those when I can. And as always, I appreciate you watching. Hope to catch you on the next one. Peace out.